What if I told you that what we call mental illness isn't a disease at all, but a story, a profitable, manipulative, and socially accepted story? A story sold to you by pharmaceutical companies, marketed by institutions, and legitimized by a field that was supposed to understand the mind, but ended up pathologizing it instead. Before we dive into manipulation, we need to understand the origin of the idea of mental illness. The term mental illness implies that the mind can be sick in the same way the body can, like catching a cold or breaking a leg. But the mind isn't a physical organ. You can't take an MRI of a thought or find a tumor in someone's anxiety. What we call mental disorders are really patterns of behavior, emotion, or thought that deviate from the norm. And here's where it gets slippery. Who defines the norm? Who says what's healthy and what's not? Who decides whether your sadness is grief or clinical depression? Enter the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, or DSM, the Bible of modern psychiatry. But did you know, every few years the DSM changes what is or isn't a mental illness? Homosexuality was once listed as a disorder. Grief used to be considered normal. Now it can be labeled as a depressive episode if it lasts too long. These aren't medical discoveries, they're cultural decisions. Now here's the twist. Once you label someone, you can treat them. And once you can treat them, you can sell to them. Psychology, particularly psychiatry, became a business model. Imagine a world where sadness, anxiety, shyness, grief, existential dread, or boredom aren't just part of the human condition, but disorders, each one with its own name, category, and, conveniently, a treatment plan. This is where Big Pharma comes in. In the late 20th century, the pharmaceutical industry found a gold mine in psychotropic medication, antidepressants, antipsychotics, stimulants, not to heal people, but to manage them. Do they work? Sometimes. Yes, for some people. Are they overprescribed? Absolutely. Instead of asking why someone is anxious or depressed, we ask how to make them stop feeling that way. And the answer, more often than not, is a pill. You've heard it before. Depression is caused by a chemical imbalance in the brain. But here's the uncomfortable truth. There is no solid scientific evidence for that claim. It was a marketing slogan, a way to simplify complex human experiences into a neat, treatable narrative. Even the scientists who first proposed the serotonin theory have walked it back, but the myth persists because it's profitable. If depression is just a lack of chemicals, then you're just a malfunctioning machine. No need to question your lifestyle, your trauma, your environment, your society. Just take your medication and move on. In 1961, a psychiatrist named Thomas Szasz published a revolutionary book, The Myth of Mental Illness. He argued that mental illness isn't a disease, but a metaphor, a way for society to label and often control people who behave differently. Szasz didn't deny that people suffer, but he questioned whether suffering equals sickness. For example, if someone hears voices, is that automatically a psychotic disorder? Or could it be a meaningful, even spiritual experience in some cultures? Szasz believed that psychiatry had become a tool of social control, a way to medicalize deviance, and to suppress those who don't conform to the system. So, how did we get manipulated? It's not one person in a dark room pulling strings. It's a self-sustaining system. Pharma companies fund research. Psychologists and psychiatrists publish the research. The media spreads it. Insurance companies rely on it. And the public consumes it. So, what do we do instead? Throw out psychology? No, but we reclaim it. We rehumanize it. We remember that pain, anxiety, depression, and even madness can be expressions of a soul in distress, not just a brain gone haywire. That healing may not come from suppression, but from understanding, from integration, from meaning. Therapies that embrace this, like Jungian analysis, existential therapy, somatic experiencing, don't aim to cure disorders. They aim to help people understand themselves. They see you not as a malfunctioning robot, but as a human being carrying a story worth listening to. The myth of mental illness isn't that people don't suffer. It's that their suffering is meaningless. But what if your anxiety is trying to wake you up? What if your depression is a sign that something in your life or in the world is deeply wrong? It's time we stop outsourcing our sanity, stop medicalizing our minds, and start thinking critically about psychology, about suffering, and about the systems that benefit from labeling you as broken. It's time to stop outsourcing our narratives, time to challenge the diagnoses, and time to remember that healing isn't always found in the clinic, but sometimes in conversation, in community, and in consciousness. Because you're not broken, you're human.